Hello everybody, how are you? I hope you are all well. Let's get started with another video, and I want to talk to you about critical thinking. And isn't it important these days to have some amount of healthy critical thinking? I say healthy, I stress that. Because nowadays we all think that we can think very well, but it's a bit of a pitfall every now and then. Let's jump into it. Why astrologically is it? As from today, I'm recording this on the 8th of September, and the energy that I'm going to talk about is for the whole month. So it's the whole month of September that we're going to have the energy of the planet Mercury, which is the mind and how we gather information, Mercury, together with Mars, the planet of drive, the planet of not only our sex drive, by the way, but drive in general. Why do we do things? That's Mars. It's our intention, it's our force, it's powerful. And those two planets are coming together in the sign of Virgo. Virgo, which is the most critical, maybe not most grounded, but it's an earth sign. So together with the Capricorns and Taurians, Virgo is an earth sign, and they are very known for their groundedness. They have their feet in the ground, you know, on the ground, and they're very practical. So we are collectively, and I will do for each individual sign afterwards, after that I have explained it a little bit, I will do from Aries up until Pisces, what this energy means for us in general, because everyone has Virgo somewhere in their astrological chart. We all have Virgo somewhere. Some people have Virgo in their 10th house of work, so they will act when it comes to work a bit like a Virgo, etc., etc. Other people have it in their 5th house, for instance, when it comes to children. They're going to relate to them a bit like Virgo. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that we are going to have a tremendous amount of critical energy in front of us during now up until the end of September, and it's a special kind of combination when those two planets come together, because it's a very strong combination. So when you draw these two pieces together, it's very likely that when you put Mars, the planet of action, together with Mercury, the planet of information and communication, there's going to be a lot of criticism, there's going to be a lot of judgments, there's going to be a lot of good work done too, because Virgo likes the nitty-gritty, wants it all to be perfect. But how to use this in the best way? Because as you and this is what this video is all about, and I'm doing this also with a bit of an open-minded view about the critical thinking nowadays that has seemed to be a bit lost every now and then. Let's start with the positive. If you have a Mars-Mercury combination in your chart, and a lot of people do, you can do very good things. And you certainly have a certain strength. I'll give you an example. I have that in my chart, but I know a lot of people who have this. This is not so rare. And I think that one of my strengths is certainly that Mars is drive and Mercury is the mind. So I'm very driven in my communication. I'm also very driven to explore and to get to the root of the matter, and to you know, to not let go, to keep on questioning, especially that is because it's also a bit aspected with Pluto. Anyways, that's something else. But basic thing is that it really wants to know the truth, and it's going to look for it, and it's going to be tremendously committed to fix something, because Virgo is about fixing. And I use this hopefully in the most positive way with my clients. You know, when they come to me, I just focus 1000% on them, and I focus like doing this, and I forget all the rest, what is going on. And that is healing. You know, Virgo is a very understanding sign and very healing, to focus on a problem and to show it to someone else put the other person a bit in a crisis because of that, but then they can grow. So that's the positive side of, you know. But everyone knows that when you have a positive talent and when you have some experience in something that you are good at, it also has a weakness. It has a tremendous weakness and it has a tremendous pitfall. In other words, every good thing has a shadow. And I know my shadow. For instance, again, to give myself as an example, and I'm not doing this because I think, oh, I'm wow. It's just to show you how easy this is to understand in day-to-day life. When I'm using this focus in a different context, in a context where it's better not to do that, I'm getting into trouble, of course. And I'm not doing well at all. On the contrary, I'm doing wrong then. And to give the example, when I have a almost 15-year-old son, if I'm going to use that talent with him, oh boy, it's not going to work out, is it? If I use that talent of wanting to fix him and wanting to make sure that he makes no mistakes, then what will happen? My son will not grow. He will not experience life, and so that will be a bad thing. So you see what I mean? Everything that is extremely good has also an extremely downside to it, with everything. So we all have talents and we have to be aware of that. That is the part of, and this month we are all going to see that. So it's better that we are aware of it, because then we can control it in a way. So although I am aware of this, that I have to let go of my son, you know, which I'm trying to do, although I am aware of it, it's still a struggle. It's still not very easy for me to do, but I learn through the process. So you see what I mean? And in this critical thinking, everyone who has it doesn't matter what kind of job you do, it doesn't matter in what kind of context you're doing it. Everyone who has a certain experience in their life or who is good at something, it's always good to know that that has a pitfall as well. And that's what this energy this month is all about. It's about being critical towards the critical. Because don't forget, I'm also saying this towards on a collective level, like in a time that we have YouTube, in a time that we have Facebook, in a time that we have a lot of social media, how it is great to have access to lots of more information. I mean, I can remember when I was studying at a university, I had to go to a library and it took so much time to get some information. Now you just Google, you've got the information there and it pops up and you get the knowledge, which is great, but there's a downside of it. What is true and what is not, and we let ourselves mislead. There's a weakness in that strength of all that information, and that weakness is that sometimes we look for what we want to be the truth, and we all have that. We all have that emotional, psychological, conscious or unconscious motives that will suit us to believe something, yes or no. I'll give you an example. I'll give you about this critical thinking. Sometimes people who are extremely intelligent and I mean rationally intelligent, you know, you can have someone who's emotionally intelligent, but I'm talking here about the rational intelligent guy or girl or woman or man. And rational, I mean, they studied mathematics, for instance, or they're engineers, or, you know, they know the logic of things, they know what critical thinking is all about. Still, they have a very great weakness as well, which is because if they're, let's say, not right, but they're assuming they are, they can do a lot of harm to not only themselves but also others, because they can make it right. They're mostly rational people who can reason and communicate very well. They can put the truth, they can always kind of explain themselves. And this is also what this energy now is all about. Mercury Mars conjunction in Virgo can explain everything. I mean, so that is a very great pitfall. And the people, what you see today is that a lot of, let's say for instance, conspiracy theories as well. There's a lot of intelligent people that it's not that these people are dumb or not intelligent, that they believe, like for instance, I'm giving a stupid example here, but when there is, how do they call that, chemtrails in the sky, and my dog barks, or no, let's say there's chemtrails in the sky and I have a bit of asthma or something like that, or I'm getting a cold, it's because of that. You know, even those very intelligent people can make statements like this. Why is that? Why is that these people, although they had in their studies, for instance, I can remember that when the problem is that young people don't learn this at school, this critical thinking. It is not learned at the, you know, high school, or how do you call that, at elementary school. It is learned. I have thought this or learned this at the university in the first year. It was, you know, that for instance, if they want to have a relation between two things, you have to really, if you want to be sure that it's correlated, you have to exclude all the other factors that could be causing it. So that's just a part of the critical thinking. But what I'm trying to say here is that even though you think that you're very smart and you think you're very intelligent, you can make those mistakes because you want something to be the truth. Why do you think people go to astrologers, and even when they say, I don't really believe in astrology, but I believe in this person, and it is the truth? Because there is a power, a tremendous power in what you believe and making it true. I'll give you another example, not in the scientific world, but in the emotional world. Let's say you are a young girl and you just met a tremendous attractive guy, and you're a very rational woman, and this guy you're dating, and you just known this guy, and he has to go to a reception for work, for instance. He has to go to a reception for work, and you're feeling a bit odd. You're feeling a bit, I don't like it that he is going to a reception, because you know he's very charming, he's very attractive, and you know, that kind of feeling. And she's texting him, and how is everything going? You know, are you having a good time? And he's not texting back. Someone like that, that girl could begin the first 10 minutes. She texts, where are you? Is everything all right? After half an hour, she's texting, you are really having a good time over there, yes, and there are probably really good colleagues over there that you like more than me. And within an hour, it's totally drama. So, and that little, you know, something, that woman or that young girl can really think that she's being rational, because, you know, he's not texting back and this and that. But of course, it's the underlying emotion, which is in this fact insecurity and not being very secure of yourself, and the fear of losing someone, that is taking control. So the emotions, consciously or unconsciously, are taking control, and therefore the emotions are so strong. Don't forget that we all have, you know, a brain with different parts. I don't know that much about the brain, but what I do know is there's a very old part and there's a very new part. And sometimes the old part takes over, which is the emotional part. I don't even want to name it. I mean, the neocortex and what is it all? The amygdala. Once you out there who know, just write it in the comments if you want to. But basically it is that our state is really also influencing what we believe or not. So we better be in a good state, because if we are like that young girl in a state of fear, the conclusions are not really good, are they? So that's why if you want to make good decisions in life, if you want to be critical about something, it's very good. And I hope out of this whole video that you just remember this, that if you're making a conclusion about something, check your state. Is your state peaceful? Is your state fearful? I'm actually fear of losing someone, or I'm fearful of this or that. Check that state, because when it's common sense, isn't it? If you want to make a decision when you're in a state of fear or in a state of anxiety, that it's not the best thing to do. So, but keep that in mind. Even when you think that you're very critical and rational, sometimes you're simply not, and that humbles us. And this is what Virgo is all about. Virgo wants to make us humble. And whether you are CFO or whether you are a farmer, it doesn't matter. It's very human. But this criticalness, this typical energy of the Virgo, it is not natural. It has to be learned. You have to be aware of it. That's why I think it's so important that we teach our young children to learn to be critical. And not in an overdoing drive, like being fearful here, like for instance the attacks that has been happening here in Belgium. You know, when there is an attack in Brussels or in Zaventem, people, you know, there was this terror attack, and then people don't want to travel towards Belgium anymore. Of course, logically speaking, if you think there has been just an attack, the chances that there's going to be another attack in the same place is really, really off. But you see, people think that they are thinking logically because of their emotions. So, and that's the awareness that, in my humble opinion, I think is going to be so crucial these days in times of social media, in times of where you don't know, is this the truth or not? You have to have that healthy, and Virgo is a lot about health. I mean, mental health, physical health. The axis of Virgo and Pisces is all about healthiness. And so it's very important to teach this to our children, but it's also very important to not go into overdrive. And because then we don't trust anything anymore, okay? And it's very difficult to find that balance. And I think this is something that we are going to do during the month of September, all on different levels, of course. And of course, don't forget that the Virgo sign doesn't want to make any mistakes. It wants to exclude everything, and it wants to be perfect. But there's a downside to it, because if you're not making mistakes, you don't grow. I'll give a simple example again out of my life to make it a bit more understandable. I worked in the human resource sector for a long time, and I got pretty much experience after I've been through, like, I mean, I did the business partner thing, I did the pension funding thing, I did the a part of the payroll, I did recruitment, I did everything. But gaining that experience, and that people said she's really, really experienced in all of that, was because I made huge mistakes. And it takes courage to, when you make such a terror. I made, for instance, one of the first month that I was there, I had to calculate and execute the salaries of the high level people who were working in that company. I mean, high level, the CFO, the CEO, the salaries were tremendously high. And well, in my point of view. And so I was responsible for the calculation, the merits and all of that. And they really, really liked me, those CFOs and CAOs, because I paid them twice. The first time I paid them twice. I paid out their salaries twice. A huge mistake, an embarrassing mistake. You know, when I was, you know, being in the restaurant, there was a restaurant over there, and they saw me, there's a that young one over there, yeah. She just paid out salaries 2 times, yeah. And that was a huge mistake, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself, because of course I was angry with the banking people. I said, how crazy can you be to pay out 2 times the same amount? But of course, it's no use in pointing the finger to someone else, because then 3 fingers are pointing towards you. So I kind of realized, and I matured a lot, that it was my mistake. And I did it in a different way. You know, next time I did a call and talked about the weather and then say, oh, did you receive my fax already? Did you receive the information? Yeah, we already paid. Then I knew, okay. Anyways, long story short is that Virgo doesn't want to make mistakes, but sometimes we have to know that we cannot gather experience and growth without it. And of course, I'm not saying that if you want to be good at something that you have to make a lot of mistakes. Some people are just talented, but I wasn't very talented with that thing. But some people are really talented and have that in their blueprint, in their DNA. And you see that in a horoscope as well, you know, the talents of people. And where does that come from? Well, does it come from former lives? Can't prove it, can I? But probably. I mean, energy energy only transforms, it doesn't go away. Anyway, let's enough of this. And you know, that's also the Virgo thing, it just keeps on going. But let's have a look at everyone, at what area of life, because we've got 12 parts in the horoscope, what areas of our lives we can be a bit more critical, because now is a good time to be critical. It's not always like that. You know, sometimes it's a good time to be intuitive, and other times it's a good time to be a bit both. So that's very important as well. I'm not saying here that only the rational thing is a good thing. On the contrary, there's also something like intuition, feelings. You know, you can be a recruiter, and I certainly saw that in when I worked there, that sometimes you had recruiters who were very logical and rational, and for instance, when someone had skipped 6 months of not telling their experience, they would see it. Out of 20 years, they would see, what did you do those six months? And they could really well know what you were all about. And then you had recruiters who didn't use any technique at all, who just trusted their gut feeling, and they had good results as well. With good results, I mean, if you're recruiting someone and they're leaving the company within 2 months, it's not a good recruitment act. So everything has its worth. Sometime, and you know, most people will be either one or the other. You know, I think it's a bit, you know, I think I have a bit of both. I use my rational reasoning, but I also use my, you know, what I feel. But as I said, now we are in a time where we could do more and well and more successful when we are a bit more towards the rational side. So let's start with Aries. And of course, these are sun horoscopes. Again, this is not tailor-made. If you wanted to know exactly, just get in touch with me, and I'll do a tailor-made horoscope. But for the Aries person, this falls into the 6th house, this very Virgo energy. So this is about work. This is about health. This is about your day-to-day routines. It's good for Aries people now to be a bit more critical towards yourself, to be a bit more like administration as well. If you're working and for yourself or for others, try to be a bit more critical and be a bit more efficient. Update your Excel files, for instance, so that you have less work, or do some mail merging, so you don't have to do every time a mail to every person individually. You know what I mean? This is getting more practical on your work, at your work. Also getting very serious, critical when it comes to your health. It's a good time for that. If you say, hey, I'm not losing weight, and you're eating 3 hamburgers a day, get practical. Virgo is about, hey, open your eyes, will you? So that's for the Aries people. Taurus people, this is happening in your 5th house. 5th house, and for Taurus and Capricorn, this is the most positive energy because you are also an earth sign. So for Taurians, it's a very good energy. It's in their 5th house, which is, 5th house is all about children, projects from the heart, and romance. So, for instance, if you're planning for children, for instance, be critical Virgo-like. I know it doesn't really sound romantic, does it? Is it? But, and Taurians are normally very, very feeling people. But it's good to be practical. For instance, if you both are working from 7 o'clock in the morning up until 9 o'clock in the evening, it's maybe not a good time for a baby. You know, things like that. Or if you're saying, yes, it's very practical, I can do this and that, go for the baby. I know it sounds anti-romantic, but that's the energy. When it comes to projects for the Taurians, or matters of the heart, or romance, maybe get real is a message here. Get real, get practical, don't be too, maybe someone is being too perfectionistic towards you, and talk about that, or the other way around. But in general, you could get a lot of good critics and a lot of good communication from people from the heart. So very positive transit for the Taurians. Gemini. Gemini, this is happening in your 4th house. So this is your home area, your home, your emotions. It's for a Gemini, that's not going to be difficult because you're ruled by Mercury. But it's a good time for you, Geminis, to be very critical towards your emotions. So examine them, why you have the emotions that you have. And also with, you could end up in a bit of fights or arguments, so to speak. I mean, fights, not really fights, hopefully not. But discussions with family members. But be very critical about yourself, be very critical and try to be that Virgo who's very objective. What is fact, what is figures? It's about fact and figures now. But not that anything that you don't think that I can't deal with it because you're Mercury ruled Gemini. Cancer, this is happening in your 3rd house. Cancer is water, Virgo is earth. So this is not going to be a huge problem for the Cancerians. It could mean that the best thing that can happen to you is to be more critical in your thinking. So to using what I was just saying, to use that in your reasoning is going to help you tremendously. So if you have to teach something to someone else or you're learning something, excellent time for that. The Leos, this is happening in your 2nd house. So for a lot of Leos, it's going to be the economist when it comes to your resources. If things are going more out than they're coming in, get real, Leo. You see what I mean? I'm playing here the tough Virgo, you know, this is how it is and don't mess around. And so it could be that. It could be also that you're re-examining your self-worth. That where do you lack self-worth and why is that? You know, the objectivity of it, why is that? For the Virgos, it's happening in their 1st house, it's all about them. It's a good time for the Virgos to be very critical towards themselves and not going towards the pitfall of criticizing others all of the time. That's the pitfall. So to, you know, the one finger pointing and the other 3 pointing back, try to look at yourself and how you can improve yourself and to humble yourself and understand yourself better so that the consequence is that you understand people, which is what Virgos are all about. Then after Virgo, we have Libra. This is their 12th house. So this could be quite strange actually, because the 12th house is all about the unconscious and things that are not known to you, and we have all this critical energy in your 12th house. So be critical towards what you dream, be critical towards what you want to let go of, be aware of your own self-destructive behavior. You know, Mars in there in the 12th house with Mercury, at its best, it's you recognize your shadows. So be open for that. Be open-minded towards the shadows that you're encountering. They can strengthen you. It doesn't have to mean that you have to be down because you encounter your shadows. If you know them, you can master them. That's for the Librans. What about Scorpio? Scorpio, this is in your 11th house, the house of friends, the house of connection, with a very social house actually. So you could be quite active with friends, quite active with networking. It could, at its best, it's to be not too judgmental towards friends. And if you get criticism of your friends, just to be very objective and say, yeah, maybe it's about this and that, these are the facts, these are the figures. So also being, but you can achieve a lot of empowerment too of friends. Again, Scorpio is a water sign, and that goes very well with Virgo. Then we have Sagittarius. Sagittarius, this is happening in your 10th house of work. So work could become a bigger focus on work, being very critical towards your own work. Hopefully you're doing that, because if not, the energy is gonna come towards you and you're gonna say, oh, my boss is way too critical, and stand still and be open to that and try to improve yourself. When it comes to work, try to see in a very objective, analytical way where you can make your work better, make your work more stand out. So very interesting, energetic time for people with Sagittarius energy. Then after that we have Capricorn. This is happening in your 9th house, and this is really interesting because this is the Mercury and the Virgo energy, which is very analytical, in the broad house of the 9th house. The 9th house is all about seeing it big and having a vision. So it's a good time for you to getting more critical towards your own vision and towards your own opinions. Don't fall into the pitfall of being propagandist and my way or the highway. So try to be very critical towards your own way of thinking, your own view. Very interesting to travel as well, and it could be very exciting, very hectical energy, but you're gonna learn a lot whilst you're traveling. Aquarians, this is happening in a very, very dark but intense house of the 8th house, this energy. So a lot of psychological awareness that can come to the Aquarians because of this energy. Being very critical towards the occult, for instance, being very critical towards the metaphysical side of life, but also being very critical towards psychological shadow sides of yourself, and battling them and understanding them. You know, this energy is all about understanding what it's all about. So a tremendous growth for Aquarians, because Mars is an activator, so you need to learn more about yourself when this transits your 8th house, and you are going to for sure. And then last but not least, we have Pisces, and this is happening in their opposite sign of the 7th house. So this is relationships. So Pisceans could encounter more critical, judgmental people. It's not a good time to go your way or the highway. It's actually a better time to try, not to be a doormat, but to try to understand where they are coming from. Because that criticism, whether it is positive or negative, you can use it in a very constructive way if you want to, and by being open to that. So very powerful communication can happen for the Pisceans with very important people in their life. The 7th house is not always just your loved one. It could be a business partner, it could be a client, or it could be a counselor. Someone that you counsels can be very critical towards you, but at its best, it can help you to improve yourself and to be quite objective about yourself, which is not an easy thing for a Piscean to do, because they're all about feelings. So I hope this is not a too long video. It's quite long. I just wanted to make it like 15 minutes, but I hope it was helpful. I I would say enjoy this critical time, use it at its best. It's also a time of very tremendous, powerful communication that can really heal you, you know, the healing side of the Virgo. And that can really make yourself understand yourself way better than normal. Thank you very much for watching. I wish you a very good day or evening or night even. And see you next time. Bye-bye.